Well, as the former voice of the New York Yankees, John Sterling would always say to Susan Waldman, "That's baseball, Susan." And that was baseball on Monday night. We'll talk about the Sox loss. Walker Buehler was great, right? Have we been too hard on him? Yeah, maybe I have. Is there a bidding war that's going to be going on involving the Sox and Yankees? We'll see, and we'll get to your comments from Monday's show. It's another edition of Red Sox Now presented by FanArch. I'm Mike Antonellis right here on YouTube. We've surpassed 1,000 subscribers, so that means we're done. We don't care. Yes, we do. Just kidding. We're on our way to 2,000. That's the next goal. Please subscribe. We notice a lot of people are watching, not subscribing, so subscribe, comment, and like. I try to get different people in the comments, so if I don't read your comments, I definitely respond to all of them. If I haven't from each day, I apologize. I try to get to them every hour and a half, but I will try to get new people on when we do the comments live. This is an alternate logo for the Portland Sea Dogs, the Maine Clam Bakes, and I figured, why not? In the summer, isn't this pretty cool? Pretty cool. I worked in Portland, so I gotta rock the different hats. I got some Moose Sox hats, some different Red Sox hats, and we'll do this. What in the world happened? Hey, that's baseball. Like I said, it had not happened since 1971, and I actually tweeted this out. That was the last time a game ended on a walk-off catcher's interference. And it was involving the Phillies. Excuse me, it was involving the Reds and Dodgers. And Bill Buckner was on the base during that game when it ended. He was at second when the catcher's interference happened. But, I tweeted this as good old fun because I say this a lot on the radio, and we hear this a lot. You just never know what you're going to see at a baseball game. Yeah. Something new all the time. I had 5 or 6 people, and this is where you guys and gals can be source sports as Red Sox fans or any fan base, say that was Bush League, that Edmundo Sosa called for a challenge. Come on. That's being a source sport. No, it's not. He was smart. He knew it right away, and it was the right call. I mean, you can't do that. But that's how it ended. Here's how I kind of feel about this. And maybe it's being glass half empty. I would have been more upset if there were 2 outs or even 1 out. The fact that there was nobody out and Trey Turner was on deck, and I didn't think Hicks had the stuff. I didn't think you were winning that game anyways, but you still want to see how it plays out. He could have struck out Sosa. Turner could have hit into a double play. I get all that. But with no outs, it didn't sting as much. I think just we were all in shock. But that's how the Red Sox lost the opener. They are now 1-3 on the trip. They still have a 1.5 lead over Tampa. They have lost 2 in a row. See, a lot of that factors. They do have teams on their heel, but they're still, as they are 1/3 of the way through this 12-game stretch before the trading deadline. They're 1-3, but I thought that was a heck of a game last night. I really did. Zach Wheeler is excellent. That's what it looks like. Do you see why there's a premium? That's a 36-year-old, or a 34-year-old with stuff. Do you understand now why? Now, I don't care what the numbers look like between him and Buehler. Buehler's line might look a little bit better minus the strikeouts. They're not in the same stratosphere and stuff. That's why I don't like numbers all the time. Oh, Buehler, he matched Wheeler. Okay, yeah, he did. But would you take Buehler over Wheeler? No. But we got to give Buehler credit. I'm just saying, in terms of why guys like that are pitchers that are like a Joe Ryan or any top of the rotation guys, when you see them live, and Wheeler is right up there with Crochet and Skubal, stuff. That's why Dave Dombrowski handed out $120 million to a guy like that, which was an overpay for some. You just can't find guys like this. One thing that but again, this was a good game. I think the Red Sox being able to play in games like this, though, they have proven that this year. That's something they couldn't do last year. Sometimes in games like this with really good starters, they'd lose 5-6-0. that was a good game last night. And they've played pretty good baseball at times during this 4 games. This is what it's going to look like because these teams are elite. And I don't think the Red Sox are at that level yet. And it's not easy to get to that level. That's a pretty damn good 5 hitters in a row. Right? Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Castellanos, Real Muto. And then you add the starters they have. Their bullpen is not great. They looked good last night because they used their guys. They tend to do that. They set up and with the break, they were, and they've lost 3 straight series, by the way. But they were able to use their good guys last night, and they were pretty good. The thing that I know I'm going to harp on, and I know Core doesn't like this either, it's the strikeouts. You can't continue to strike out like this, though, as an offensive unit. 16 more times last night, and that's just too much. I get it was extra innings. So, 16 of 26 outs or 30 outs, you're not putting the ball in play. Yeah, Roman Anthony had a rough night. He's young. This is going to happen too. This is the trials and tribulations when you're young. Philly's not that young, but you have a lot of young guys. Meyer 0 for 2 strikeouts. Even Abreu 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts. He's still somewhat young in terms professionally. Anthony, 4 Ks. Duran is at 100 strikeouts in 100 games. That's a lot. He had 160 last year in 160 games. Narvaez 2 more strikeouts. But if you're a neutral fan and you watch that, it was a good game. Red Sox had some good swings, I thought. They drove the pitch count of Buehler. And, part of me is not that upset. Like, I'm not going to sit there and come away, it's disappointing, but I like how they're playing against these, in these 4 games. And I like how they played last night. That could have looked, I think, a couple years ago, uglier. Maybe 8 innings from Wheeler and 15 strikeouts. So I think there was some goods, right? I mean, there's some positives, some negatives. But I think we all kind of knew that this is what it's going to look like. Also, Chapman in the 8th. Look who he faced. Absolutely dominated. He made those great hitters look silly. Schwarber and Harper had no chance against them. Do you see why guys like that? We don't need to look at analytics with guys like Chapman and Crochet and even Whitlock. I mean, that was a brilliant move, bringing him in there. And it's just, it's like he's gotten better, but he is unhittable right now. And so you rebound. I think you come out of the game feeling like, hey, you hung with them. You had a lead. They had 1 inning, really, offensively. So you turn the page. We turn it. Right? We're gonna turn the page. We need to give Buehler credit. I'm the first at it. Didn't have a ton of swings and misses, but that's a good lineup. And the fact that he gave you 7 innings completely changes the rest of the series. That's your 4th starter who has been struggling. He gave you 7. And you might be able to use Chapman tonight if you're in a situation, again, close game. But an ERA of 3 this month. Now, I think if you can upgrade, you do. But the fact that he's given you 3 pretty good starts in a row. And if he ends up being your 5, say you kick Fitz to the bullpen, you'll take an ERA of 4.5, 5 from your 5th starter. That's pretty much what the league average is. And I don't mind a guy like that, a veteran, as your 5th guy, if he can give you innings. I thought his delivery was better. His mechanics were way better. At times his sinker just gets left up. But, that was big stuff last night. It really was. Because he has struggled against lesser offenses, but a lot of it he has said is mechanical. But it's still with a game within a game. And even though you lost, he is set you up nicely, and now Fitz, it's his turn. And you're going to have Giolito tomorrow. Don't want to see the Red Sox get swept, though. And still, so you need, for me, 5 and 7 right now might be the most realistic thing. If you can get 4 more wins somehow over the next 8 games, I will take that any day of the week. And again, you're still leading the wild card. That's all we're worrying about. 102 games, 60 left. Yeah, of course, the division, but I think maybe realistically, Toronto is running away with a lot of things right now. I mean, they have the second best record in the American League and the third best in baseball. And we talked about Toronto when they won 2 of 3. That's a pretty good club no one's talking about. And now they're taking care of business. But yeah, let's give Walker credit, right? I will give him, yeah. And we'll see how Fitz does tonight. So this is really interesting because I do like Merrill Kelly. I think Merrill Kelly would be a good addition to the club. Lou Merlone talked about this last night. It's like Lou's watching. He said a lot of things, kind of echo, but a lot of it's common sense, and a lot of you said the same thing about, the Dobbins injury kills you because you don't have depth now. Everyone knows that. There's no secret. We all know that. You essentially have Kyle Harrison, who they're retooling everything. He's not ready to pitch in Boston. And you have Cooper Criswell. That's it. That's really all you have. The Yankees want rotation upgrades because they have lost Heal's rehabbing. Cole's been out all year, of course. And there's been some Yankee people that said they're in on Merrill Kelly. That's a guy that people are suggesting the Red Sox go after. I like a guy like that. He's got an expiring contract. But here's the thing. You have Mike Hazen as the GM, former Red Sox executive, with a chance to trade him to one of those 2 teams. What do you think that's going to look like for bidding war? You don't think he's going to play those 2? Oh, that stuff doesn't happen. Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, yeah, it does. You have 2 desperate teams at third base. They want Suarez badly. They might act like they do. They don't want Chisholm playing third. That's a huge chip. And then he knows that both organizations want pitching. That's why I don't do a lot of I won't do mock trades. I won't do that on here and tell you that this will get it done, because the deadline is just such an animal of its own. Think about this. We talk about the catching situation too. What did you get at a time that Christian Vazquez wasn't really having a great year? Houston had a catcher hitting, I believe, under 200, Maldonado at the time. They won the World Series. They needed a backup catcher and maybe Vazquez to play more. I think he caught a no-hitter that year. Vazquez played a little bit more. And the Astros had to give up Wilyer Abreu and Enmanuel Valdez. Abreu was one of their top outfield prospects. They had to give up 2 prospects for a backup catcher. The Red Sox don't have anybody really right now, if we talk about that. You might have to give up Garcia, the password, just to get that. Oh, no. Yeah. You don't have any catchers in AAA. And you have a guy in the big leagues that is struggling. So that the bidding wars are going to be interesting. But Merrill Kelly is a guy I'd love to see in the Red Sox. And that is, if the Yankees are indeed in on another starter, and they have the goods, boy, that will be must-see TV. The trade deadline is going to be fascinating because the Diamondbacks lost again. They're 5.5 back. I think they're selling. I mean, they're not going to say that, but I'm going to speak for Mike Hazen. All right, let's get to the comments from Monday's show. They were strong as always. We'll try to get to different ones. At George White, 5810, I think we need a number 2 slot. A number 2 to slot Giolito and Bayo in their proper roles with Houck, Dobbins, Sandoval out. We have a little starter depth. We have little, sir. Yep. Not sure why we traded Quinn Priester for nothing in return. Well, I mean, at the time, he was in AAA and they got a first round pick and two prospects. I know. And if at that time I would have told you and I said at the time they shouldn't have done that, and I did say that, people told me I was nuts. He's in AAA. You got a first round pick, and we'll see how Marcus Phillips. That's who they got. But I didn't think the Red Sox had that much depth at the time. But there was just something about him they didn't like. So yeah, I get that. We're all agreement on the Priester. Also, a backup catcher. Does Wong have options? He does. Maybe he needs to be in Worcester. Yeah, okay. But if you do that, what's your other option? You don't have anybody to call up. Well, call up anybody. Well, you don't have anybody. So you have to make a move. Get creative. Tell me what you're going to do. You're going to have to give up a lot to get a backup catcher. You will. Trust me on this. Not just because of the Vasquez model, just because you don't have anyone else. Sebi Zavala is got big league experience in Worcester. He's not ready to. I mean, that's a tough spot. You might have to just live with it, to be honest. You can't and also you can't. Every single position on the team can't be perfected. You're going to always have a little crack. Even the Dodgers do. So I'm not sure what the right thing is. I think if you can find somebody decent, but again, it's a backup catcher. So anyone you bring in here, it's going to be from an organization that doesn't think much of that guy either. So it might not be much of an upgrade. Or it could be like the Sandy Leon thing. He got DFA'd and you claimed him. And he came to the Red Sox and he said Rich Gedman turned his whole career around. We'll see. I hope I pronounce it right. Jolasoli. Jolasoli. New follower. Why on earth is Duran in conversation for trade deadline discussion? Mainly because Preller, the GM of the Padres, has come out and said how much he loves Duran, and people are trying to connect the dots with having the extra outfielder. But I think a lot of executives have mentioned him. At Snake 1976, my boy, our resident Arizona Diamondback scout. I've seen Gallen a lot in person because he lives out there. And tonight they should pass on him if he's available. All right, we will take your word for it. That's a good scouting report. And that's a Tuesday edition in the books of Red Sox Now. Sox and Phillies go at it tonight. Richard Fitz, Christopher Sanchez. I saw him pitch in the minors. Lefty with terrific stuff. We'll see the Wonder Twins. I think Roman Anthony might sit tonight against the tough lefty. And why not? I like the flexibility. All right, Mike Antonellis. Follow me on social at Radio Mike. Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a great Tuesday. Let's go Sox. They need a win big time tonight.